All right. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1:30, and I would like to call to order the September 8th meeting of the Oklahoma City Planning Commission. A few housekeeping items before we get started. If you have cell phones, please silence or turn them off. In honor of College Football Week 2, if I hear cell phone, you might be asked to sing your alma mater song, and we stream to YouTube, so. I know a lot of you here are here to speak on items. If you haven't done so already, please complete a speaker sign-in form and give it to one of these two exceptional public servants up front, and limit your comments when called to the podium to 5 minutes. Also, if you're here as a group speaking on the same application, if you could assign a delegate or a spokesperson for your group to represent you, that would be great. If you have additional items to add to that person, something that we haven't heard, we would love to hear from you, but we don't need to hear the same 5 issues or comments 10 or 15 times in a row from 10 or 15 speakers, so we'd appreciate that. With that, I think we're ready to begin. So the first item on the list is the receipt of our minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the receipt of minutes.
I have a motion to receive the minutes from the August 25th meeting. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Powers. Please vote when available. Buffering. Rusty. I didn't see Rusty. Was he? Okay. Absent. All right. That is passed. The next item on the agenda is our continuance request. Mr. Butler, if you'd like to read our uncontested continuance request.
Yes, item 19 is case SPUD 1442, requested deferred to September 22nd. Item 20 is case C 7471, deferred to September 22nd. Item 21, case PUD 1908, deferred to October 13th. And item 22, case C 7410, deferred to December 8th.
Okay. And I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience here to speak on any of those items. Does not appear so. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the uncontested continuance requests.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the uncontested request as read.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hinkle and a second from Commissioner Pruitt. Thank you. Please vote when available.
Like David's continuing the one I was going to beat him up on.
And that item is passed. Next item is new continuance requests.
Yes, we have one, item 16, case C 7476, requested to defer to October 13th.
Okay. Was there anyone here to speak on item C 7476? No? Okay. With that, I'll take a motion to approve the new continuance requests.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the new continuance request.
Okay. I have a motion from Commissioner Hinkle and a second from Commissioner Govine. Please vote when available. And that item is passed. Next up on the agenda is our consent docket. These are a number of items that are pretty straightforward in nature and therefore voted on as a group. Mr. Butler, would you like to read the consent docket?
Yes, item 1, excuse me, is case number PC 10832, application to rezone 805 Northwest 68th Street from SPUD 1324 to R1. Item 2 is case PC 10833, application to rezone 2312 South Pennsylvania Avenue from R2 to C3. Item 3 is case PC 10834, application to rezone 4316 South Youngs Boulevard from R1 to R1ZL. Item 4 is case C-7473, final plat of Northwood Village, Section 5, located north of Northwest Expressway and east of North Cemetery Road. And item 5, case C-7474, final plat of Villas at Cavallo, located south of Southwest 44th Street and east of South Mustang Road.
Okay. Is there anyone here to be heard regarding an item on the consent docket? Okay. Is there any discussion on items on the consent docket? Okay. With that, I'll take a motion to approve the consent docket.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent docket as read.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hinkle to approve the consent docket and a second from Commissioner Powers. Please cast your votes when available. And the consent docket has passed. With that, that brings us to items requiring a separate vote and consideration. We will begin with item 6.
This is case C-7472, preliminary plat of the Enclave at Blackwood Farms, located south of Northwest 63rd Street and west of North Council Road.
Is the applicant present?
Yes.
All right.
Good afternoon, Brad Reed with LTS Engineering Services, 2212 Northwest 50th. Here on behalf of the applicant, the developer is also with me today. So what you have here is 361 lots on 87.6 acres, 4.12 dwelling units an acre. A little bit of a backstory on this project. It's a little bit strange. It was a preliminary plat that was approved in 2004. One phase was constructed, and then it sat. The rest of this land sat vacant since then. I'm pretty sure the first phase was around 2005. Houses were built, and the current owner is looking to sell. So we have a new developer in looking to do basically the rest of this subdivision. Again, that was platted in 2004. This developer is aware that there's an existing neighborhood that's already been there. It's established. The access has to come through their addition. Stitcombe is on our west side. It's a private drive. We can't take access to that. The only access we have is through the existing phase 1 that's already there. So because of this, we're zoned R1, but because of this, he understands that. We put a block of 70-foot lots immediately adjacent to the existing neighborhood, and then 60-foot lots for everything else in here. This will allow for a larger house to be built. It'll allow for a 3-car garage if that's what the market dictates. So we didn't go down to 50-foot lots because we're aware of the situation that's going on. There are 6 TEs on this. 1, 2, and 6 are pretty standard. 3 is a navigation easement for the airport. We agree to that. That's not a problem because of Wiley Post Airport. We don't have an issue with that. So 4 and 5. 4, there's a 60-foot right-of-way, or a 60-foot collector street, basically, that is in the phase 1. We changed it to a 50-foot going south. Staff recommends that we keep that. We agree to that. We'll do the 60-foot right-of-way all the way to the south on TE4. TE5, there's a long run on the west side. We don't want the variance. We will agree to break that up to not have that long run on that side. So don't need a variance on that one. We'll agree to the stipulation of 4. If there's any other particular questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
I know we have a number of people signed up to speak on this item. Are there any questions from commissioners for the applicant? No? Okay. With that, I will go ahead. I'd like to hear from the audience. My understanding is that there are a number of folks and a representative has been designated to speak. If that's the case, we'd love to hear from that person first. Sir? As he comes to the podium, just a quick reminder, all comments, please make all comments at the podium so they're captured by the microphone for the record. Sir, if I can have your name and address for the record.
My name is Terry Crowder, and I live at 6300 Blackwood Boulevard. And we would like to ask the committee for a continuance. We got our notices about 3 weeks ago, and we have people prepared to speak today, but we would really prefer to defer this matter till we have more time to get together and make our arguments.
Have you had any meetings with the applicant?
No.
Okay.
By a show of hands, can we see how many people are out here for this application?
Thank you. Okay, so you're requesting a continuance?
Yes.
Of how, do you have a timeframe in mind?
Well, we would like a month.
A month, okay. We will take that into consideration. Anything else that you'd like to add?
No,
Okay.
not at this time.
Okay,
I mean, as I said, we have several
I was gonna
speakers on different areas
okay,
concerning this. So
okay.
I don't see how one person couldn't cover it in 5 minutes. And there's like, I think, 5 areas that we find problematic.
Mr. Reed, are you open to a continuance? You're not, okay. The applicant is not open to a continuance. With that, I'm happy to hear from others that have signed up to speak. If you would like to use your 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, I will get started then.
Okay.
First of all, do the committee members have these documents, the plat that's proposed and the original plat for Blackwood Farms?
I don't believe we
We
do.
don't have the original, no.
You do not have the original. Well, let me tell you a little bit about the original then. It basically has 300 additional houses. The architect or lawyer, whichever I believe, mentioned that Phase 1 was completed and Phase 2 is what they're wanting to change. Well, in the original plot, there were 300 homes designated in this new area, and they're wanting 371. So what I wanted to talk to you about is home values and the lot size. I believe he said that the lots were comparable. I do not see lots that are 60 by 115 for the most part. There are smaller ones and a few that are bigger, but that's 6,900 square feet. In Blackwood Farms Phase 1, the minimum lot size we have is 8,400, and there are a few bigger than that. So we're looking at 1,500 difference. They did mention that they had one row of lots that was 70 by 120, which is the typical size in our addition, and I assume they're talking about that being the transition area. Well, it's one row of houses. It's basically 12 houses. And actually, you can't get 12 houses on that. You can get 11. Okay? So, this original plan I'm talking about was done by Mr. W. Ray Newman, who passed away sometime in the 2000s. And he had planned to make this second part the same as what we have now. Lot sizes, and it shows on the original plat, which I wish you had a copy of to look at, but it also takes care of some of the issues that other people will be bringing up. Also, we have a lake there, and we're required by our bylaws of the HOA to have a minimum house size of 2,400 square foot on that lake. The lot sizes, I just don't believe would be compatible to having that in the new area. Also, in Blackwood Farms, the minimum house footage is 2,200 square feet. And probably the predominant size is 24 up, 2,400 up. I don't see how on a 60 by 115-foot lot, how you're going to be able to put any size house other than maybe a 1,500 or 1,600, maybe a maximum of 2,000, but that would take up, that'd have to be a 50 by 40 house, okay? So basically, they would not have to live by the same rules we have had to as far as building houses. You're going to be looking at much smaller houses and probably not very many houses. Well, like I said, you can't build a big house on that size lot. It just won't work.
Mr. Crowder, you have 1 minute left on your time.
Excuse me?
You have 1 minute remaining on your time.
Okay, thank you. If you would like to compare Wilshire Ridge, which is just north of where we live, that's an area that has this type of house, and their lots are 6,900 square feet. Okay? Now, I always hate when people give you a lot of problems and no solutions. There is a solution here. If you would cut, or if they would cut 61 houses from their plan, they could have the same size lots, because that's what was in the original plan, which all of us, that's what we expected to happen, okay? That would be about 300 houses compared to 361. Everybody gets the same size lot. They can live under the same HOA, same rules, everything like that. I did a little number deal on this. There are 300 houses. If you have $400,000 average, which that's probably low, but that's $120 million.
All right, Mr. Crowder, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Okay.
that is
One
your 5
more, the
minutes.
361 houses at 250,000, that's 90 million. Think of sales tax and disposable income in our development the way we would like to see it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have a sign up from Mr. Charles Womack. Do you wish to speak? You can give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
I'm Charles Womack. I live at 6217 Branniger Way. We have lived in the Blackwood Farms since 2017, April. My biggest concern is what I've seen written most about in the material you received was the detention. What are we going to do with all the water during the rain? And there are some concerns about the capacity of the Blackwood Lakes Farm, a lake, to be able to handle the kind of water that would come off of that. Also, I know there are some concerns by people who live on Stinscombe. I know of one resident there about the runoff they would get from that. And so knowing enough about, what little I know in overseeing a project in a church building, we were required in Bethany to do our extensive studies of water flow and those kinds of things in retention ponds. I'm concerned that the lake, that many of the residents, and I think it's almost all of the lake residents, have had to put in some sort of rock in order to control erosion. I understand before I was a resident there that there was a concrete skirting that went around the complete lake. And that didn't survive the elements in Oklahoma. And so it was completely torn out, but nothing was replaced. I'm not familiar a lot with the lake. I just don't go down on the south end. It's not my thing. I'm not interested in getting on the lake. But I do, people have talked about the erosion problems there, and there's been no attending to us with the current developer. And there's been no responsiveness to us. We each pay our HOA into the neighborhood and then into the Lake Association. We have no accountability from him about how the money is spent and the way the things are done. We would hope that the next developer would be a little more communicating with us about those needs. And would we be factored in on the lake about some of the plans of caring for the lake for the various things? I had to turn into the city a complaint about grass that had grown up in a concrete flue that fed into the lake, and it was going to slow down things, and it eventually was addressed. But that complaint had to go in. We had the same problems when it comes to some of the lots that are owned by the developer. They've had to be cited before they're mowed. And so this kind of relationship has not been held because not been openness from the developer, and we're going to be assuming responsibilities for the lake as homeowners, and there are decisions being made by people that are not going to be living there. And so I appreciate the opportunity to voice my concerns, particularly about the retention. It could cost us $9,000 to put that in. We're fortunate that we're empty nesters. Our parents left us some money. We can spend money. We have money to spend for that kind of thing. But this housing development that's being put in, if you're targeting a certain group of people and being able to sell that many lots, would they be able to handle that kind of cost? I'm not judging that, I'm just looking at the plan as is. And so I'm concerned about the retention of the water. How's it going to be handled? How's it going to get out? And all the studies going to be done? And whether that's your purview or the next approval of the next platting before construction, but that's my big concern.
Okay, all right. Thank you for coming down. Next up, Shay Delva. Okay, thank you. Brian Colon, would you like to speak?
Hello, my name is Brian Cullen. I live at 8308 Northwest 62nd Street in Blackwood Farms, and I want to address the safety issues of putting this many homes in this section of land with virtually one entrance and exit to the neighborhood. I know the plan says that there's two, but if you look at the map, the entrance to Blackwood Farms on the left side is very rarely used because the only way to a main road from our neighborhood is that curve on 63rd Street, which is nicknamed Dead Man's Curve because there's so many accidents, especially during severe weather events. So my assumption is when the original plat was approved in 2004, they took into consideration that Northwest 63rd and Council was going to have more work done to that intersection, maybe a stoplight put in and that curve taken out to alleviate some of the traffic concerns. But as a young person that's married and thinking about starting a family, it is a grave concern to me that that has not been addressed in the decades that this neighborhood has been there. The traffic concerns around that curve right there, as well as right on Council at that intersection, is already a problem, and adding over 300 additional homes without adding an additional entrance to the main intersection is reckless, in my opinion. I think that if they were going to go ahead and approve this plan, there needs to be a contingency that has another entrance to Council on the south side of the entrance. I know that would be a very expensive endeavor to get over the canal right there, but in my opinion, I believe it's reckless to put this many more homes and that much traffic through Dead Man's Curve right there with a very small, windy road around the curve, with all the traffic going right there to Council. I think that that's reckless. I think that it could be deadly in severe weather accidents where there could be an accident there, and there is accidents there all the time when it snows or ices, and fire or ambulance not being able to come in. So I'm also with my neighbor in requesting a continuance and a traffic analysis study to be done on that intersection to see if it can even support the additional 300 homes or 371, which is proposed now, which again I believe is extremely reckless. So
Okay.
I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cullen. Carolyn Crowder, would you like to speak? As Ms. Crowder comes to the podium, I'll let you know what we've heard so far was we heard about the original plat, lot size, home square footages, possibility of reducing lots, detention drainage, HOA struggles, and safety regarding traffic and entrances.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about the neighborhood and the amount of people that are concerned about this. It's pretty evident by the number of people in the room. Sure. The reason I thought it would be good to bring up is because many of our neighbors met this past week in my backyard, and our city councilman came, Mr. Bradley Carter, and he said that it was good for us to come here today to show how many people were concerned. He said if you have a majority of the people that were given this notice, then you're more likely it's something that they would look into because you present all these issues. Well, that's why we're here today. And there's several people. I walked my neighborhood. My husband and I divided up the neighborhood last Saturday. Not a great idea in the heat, but we did it anyway, and I had the wrong shoes. But I got to meet all these wonderful people. And every single house I knocked on was concerned about it. I can verify there's not a resident in my area that thinks this is a good idea, this continuing plat proposal. So again, I'm asking for a deferment, a continuance to study this more until the issues of access, drainage, safety, and transition can be mitigated. And I will say, too, one thing that hasn't been mentioned, as I talked to my neighbors, a lot of them said they really love living here. But the way this is being proposed is causing them to say, look, if this goes through, we're going to have to look at moving out. And if they look at moving out, then all those for sale signs go up. They may or may not be able to sell their homes. A lot of people won't come in. A lot of people, the values will go down. And eventually, you'll have a neighborhood that's dying because you'll have houses that are vacant and you'll have houses that no one wants to buy. And even in the new area, they're going to have trouble. In fact, I'm not sure if a developer puts that many houses in there under these conditions, they're going to sell very many, but you've already caused a lot of problems in putting it in with poor planning. So before it's too late, please look at this further so that we can keep a healthy neighborhood right now. I mean, we've got our issues, but we've got people that are willing to stay and work on it, and don't push us out. Thank
Okay.
you.
Ms. Crowder, for the record, could I have your name and address?
Oh, okay. Carolyn Crowder, 6300 Blackwood Boulevard, Oklahoma City, 73132. And several of our neighbors were upset that they couldn't come because they can't take off work at 1:30 in the middle of the afternoon. So I do have several petitions here that have been signed by people all over the neighborhood if you need more evidence of how many people would like you to wait.
Okay, thank you very much. You can give those to Paula down there, if you'd like. Thank you for coming down. Is it David Stinchcomb? Would you like to speak?
David Stinchcomb, 6205 North Stinchcomb Avenue. My concern is that when they did the original preparation out there, even though they designate Stinchcomb as a private road, the contractor used our road. And if they do that again, our road is not big enough to handle. We handle enough traffic, people that don't belong on the road. And my concern is that they will cause further damage, and nobody's liable for that but us. There would be an option for you guys to have another access in there if you came in from 50th along the canal and put up some kind of barrier so that they were protected from getting into the canal. That's an option to get in there without having, like the gentleman suggested, going over the canal to get to council. But if you came in from 50th, you could do that. I would like to see a permanent barrier along Stinchcomb before they ever start construction, so that we're ensured that we do not have construction traffic coming onto our road. There's going to be an awful lot of trees having to be removed in there and prep work done, and that's going to be a lot more traffic than if they just had a flat land and could come in and take care of putting in the infrastructure.
All right, thank you for coming down. William Cummings, would you like to speak? You have your name and address for the record? You have 5
Certainly.
minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is William Cummins. I live at 6212 Blackwood Boulevard in the Riverbend. Much has already been said, but I would like to convey that my wife Lisa and I built our home in 2007, and we took ownership of it in January of 2008. We're both members of the Blackwood Farms at Riverbend Homeowners Association and the Lake Owners Association. We've lived there for 14 years. I mention our years in our home only to share with you that we've been a part of the neighborhood from very nearly the beginning of its inception. There exists a preliminary plat that was approved in 2004. That's here. Of that plat, the existing neighborhood that was actually built is that much of it. And that, at that time, the original plat from 2004 included our neighborhood and the proposed enclave. Those documents mention a summary of technical evaluations contained in a staff report. Now, at this time, I've not been able to locate that staff report. I hope that perhaps one of my neighbors has. That's why we were asking for a continuance, to gather some more information and to collectively come together on a message. In any event, just the amount of development that's taken place in the nearly 20 years since that was done between Northwest 50th to the south, Wilshire to the north, and from Council on the east to the Kilpatrick Turnpike to the west, those reports are almost certainly obsolete. Environmental impact, drainage has been mentioned, traffic. Traffic is going to be huge. As Mr. Stinchcomb said, it's going to be a nightmare. If anyone's familiar with Wiley Post Airport, Northwest 63rd and Council, there's no light. Council is four lanes. There is a left-hand turn lane northbound. But coming out of the neighborhood is a 2-lane road. And in the morning, traffic's already dicey. It's going to get much, much worse. Aside from those, utilities, education, there are other concerns. The entire plat from 2004 was not adopted. I demonstrated that small percentage of it was all that was adopted in 2005. Also in 2005, the owner's certificate of restrictions of Blackwood Farms at Riverbend, Section 1, was filed November 17 of 2005. It contains information about the Blackwood Farms Homeowners Association, and on page 6, it also outlines and establishes the Lake Owners Association for the neighborhood. What I hope for, honestly, is a continuance. Again, I'll ask for that. But I think what might be an equitable solution is, can we perhaps reconcile the new plat with the old? We already have a homeowners association, a lake owners association. I fear that by a new development that's called the Enclave, these will become obsolete. And perhaps not obsolete in the literal sense, but as far as how the homes are built, their appearance, how the lake is maintained. And for those of us on the lake, there are only 17 of us out of a possible 68. We're going to represent less than a third. And that's really not fair. I think the original plat that Ray Newman had in mind is really the way to go. And it's not that different from the plat that's been proposed in the Enclave. Can we have a little bit of time that we can get the parties involved together, that we can maybe find a reconciliation? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cummings. Larry DeCoons? Did I say that right? Not quite. That's right.
I just got my middle name too. Larry. My name is Larry Deke Coons. I go by Deke. Address is 6207 North Stinchcomb Avenue. So I live just to the west of this. One thing I wanted to mention is that I know you guys see it all as far as the different neighborhoods of Oklahoma City, but this is such a unique location. So I don't think there's many additions anywhere that they're starting to build into that they're completely blocked on 3 sides. So you can see Stinchcomb completely blocks it to the west. No real public access right now to the 50th Street, except what Mr. Stinchcomb mentioned, that may be able to get along that canal, and clearly can't get over the canal to the east to get to council. So it's completely blocked on 3 sides. So obviously one of my biggest concerns, I won't restate a lot of these, but that being blocked like that, it's very unique. So the only way out is 63rd, and Dead Man's Curve is a good way of putting it, but that pulling out on the stop sign at council is completely dangerous now. We've had, you can look this up, we've had 2 head-on fatality accidents there in the last 2 years. I drove up behind one of them myself with my daughter, so it's a very dangerous place to pull out. And we're talking about they have actually 90 lots or so like that in that group now. That's just a guess, but they're not even full yet. So we're gonna go from 90 in that group to put the 360, and you're at 450. So you went from 90 to 450 in exactly the same amount of traffic space you have to get out now. So it's completely not workable at all, extremely dangerous. Like I said, that stop sign's extremely unsafe now and really needs a stoplight, but again, with that 2-lane entrance and immediately do the hairpin turn over the canal, it's not even really set up great for a stoplight without a straight shot. So I would request a traffic study be completed to understand the amount of traffic that's going through there now, and then multiply it by 5 or 6. And understand what that would be. So I've seen many smaller additions than what this is proposed have dedicated stoplights to get out on major traffic roads. Even though if you couldn't do up from 50th, it would be very expensive, as the other gentleman mentioned, to get over the canal and go directly to council. But I would still suggest that is a safer way to get out there than what we're dealing with now. I would also suggest that it go back to the original plat that was there, and I'm assuming this gentleman can give you guys a copy of that. If not, I went ahead and emailed the version I have of the original to your planning commission email address, so you should be able to get to that. So I don't see any reason to increase the number from 300 to 360, except to make it more attractive to the buyer. That's the only reason, to make it more, to make them make more money. And shrinking that frame from 70 to 60 wide is a big deal when you cram all those in there like that. And putting just that one entrance home, making it wide, is clearly not really a transition. That's almost more of an insult than anything else to me. As I said, I live on Stinchcomb, just on the west side, and this is a real safety issue for me because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the area, but that Stinchcomb Wildlife Refuge is straight to the west. And bikers and walkers and joggers, runners, all use that road because it connects to the Wildlife Refuge, and it also goes straight down and connects to the Lake Overholser trails. So there are heavy bike traffic and runner traffic, and our road is a single lane road that is not even enough for 2 cars to pass in some places. It's just an old 1-lane road, and I'm very concerned that what will happen here is, even though that's a 1-lane road and you have to go a little out of your way to do it, people will start flying up that road at 50 miles an hour when you can't see over the hill, can't go by cars, and will seriously endanger walkers, joggers, and bikers that use it regularly. So I'm very concerned about that. They also mentioned the drainage issues that are going to suddenly disperse, 80 acres of land with 360 homes and all that concrete. Very concerned about what that's going to do to that private road and potentially erode it. Like I mentioned, the original plat just was only increased so that they can make more money. I don't see why that needs to be really added. But one thing I wanted to mention as I'll end here is the other opportunity for the land. Other areas I'm seeing in Oklahoma City right now, there is definite demand for large lot neighborhoods. I know people who have purchased over 1+ acre lots in additions within the city, and people would love to have that in this area. So I know there's a buyer lined up here if he can get this plat here, but I would ask for a continuance and consideration of being able to find another buyer, or if this person's interested themselves, on what it would look like if they structured in 1 acre or 1.5 acre lots, because the money really does make sense. You can really value a lot of those. I have another person I know that just developed some right there at 63rd and Stinchcomb, within 500 yards of my house. There was land available, and he broke it up into 2 acre lots and had a waiting list as soon as he started. And he never even could get to the last one because he filled it up so fast. So absolute demand in this area. People would do that. You could fill up this area with 1 acre, it'd be what, 87 homes or something like that, or 2 acre would be 45.5, or 45. So people, the amount of traffic that would hit their neighborhood would be negligible compared to what this is doing, and would increase property values, allow people to build in this area. I've had people multiple times say, oh, you live on Stinchcombe, please tell me if anything ever comes up there, or where's some land I'd love to build in this area in Oklahoma City, but I can't. I have to keep going further out. So I think that is a definite opportunity to love that, to have a delay or continuance to allow people to try to find another alternative like that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Koontz. I do just want to pause for a moment. We've heard from a number of speakers. I wanted to ask the applicant, do you have any plans to do a traffic analysis? We've heard that from a couple of speakers.
Per your ordinance, traffic impact analyses are no longer required on preliminary plat stages. This developer will be required to, at the end, play traffic impact fees. That was a change that came about 3 or 4 years ago. The city has, in the staff report, traffic didn't even make a comment in this. There's no comment about access problems. Traffic didn't even say anything. So we're not planning on doing that. It's not a requirement for the preliminary plat.
I knew it was not a requirement, but I wanted to confirm that you didn't have any plans to do one on your own.
I can't say that I actually agree with that description of what happened when we adopted the traffic impact ordinance. It's not that it's no longer required, it's just that we don't require it automatically. The Planning Commission can always choose to require an applicant to submit a traffic impact analysis. It's my understanding. Is that correct, Mr. Butler?
Okay.
So.
Could you? Okay. I asked the applicant if they had any intention of doing a traffic impact study or analysis. He stated that it is not required and they did not plan to do one. Commissioner Powers, if you could restate what you were saying.
I did not agree with the description of the traffic impact fee ordinance that we adopted several years ago as no longer requiring traffic analysis. It is true that it no longer automatically requires traffic analysis, but the Planning Commission is always free to require that of an applicant.
So as I indicated, we still have a number of you signed up to speak, and I imagine that we're going to hear a lot of the same things. I want to just take a moment and ask Commission kind of where they stand. This is my ward, and I've looked at this. I've read the emails and the letters of objection, and listened to everything that so far everyone has to speak. And I really feel that a development of this nature, with only the 2 entrances off 63rd Street, is just not, it's not feasible. I want to see that connection to Council Road, and I think that's necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I cannot, I guess I would ask Mr. Reed if there was some reason why he did not meet with the neighbors before he came today.
I only received, the first I heard was the end of last week that there was any number of protests. As I mentioned, we thought that we were doing, a reasonable representation of what was there. Obviously, 2004 versus 2022 is a very different time frame. As I mentioned, we didn't go down to 50-foot lots. I actually had another developer that looked at this piece, that was their intention. I told him, I said, I don't think that's the right way to go with this. This developer actually ended up getting this piece. He said, you know what, due to the way things are now, this requires a lift station. Phase 1 did not. That's a $500,000 fee that just automatically comes in. And so he agreed that the 60-foot lot, was a transition that he could stand, not go all the way down to 50 as per allowed by zoning. And so I wasn't aware until the end of last week. I had a procedure at the end of last week. I was out, we were out on Monday. Tuesday we get back into work. So that was the reason we didn't. And honestly, if this has to go in at 70s, we don't know that the numbers work. If we have to do exactly what the preliminary plat in 2004, we don't know that those numbers work. So we don't know that we can agree to that. We ran the numbers with the 60s as we had. And so that was why we didn't take a continuance today, is that, again, so you have somebody saying that we should do this as 1 acre tracts. So, 1 acre tracts, that's never asked of somebody in an area where this is so that's the kind of things that we expect when we meet with people. And so that's why we did not take the continuance today.
fact that you might hear things you don't want to hear is not a reason not to meet.
Well, but we understand that, but like we said, we thought with what we had, this is a platting issue. We have 60-foot lots when we can go down to 50s, and we didn't, and that was on purpose. And so, the feasibility of this, the numbers that we have, this is the application that we have going before you, so.
Well, I guess I'll just be blunt about that. I think an application like this requires some interaction with the neighbors. I'm not prepared to vote in favor of it today without that, so.
I'd agree. Are you willing to meet with the neighborhood association?
That's fine.
Okay. Would you like to take a continuance, allow 2 weeks to?
Yeah, let's put it for 2 weeks and we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
We'll do 2 weeks and see what we can do on that.
I would really encourage you to be, and clearly you're being very proactive here today, do what you can to communicate with your neighbors, to see how quickly you can pull together a meeting. Air your concerns, ask your questions, listen to the answers, and make a decision based on what comes of the meeting. And I would say the same to you.
We will, and like I said, if we can take 2 weeks, if we can't get a meeting together within the 2 weeks, then we'll ask for another continuance at the next meeting, but I would request 2 weeks for the continuance.
Okay. So before we hear that motion, I have one person that has asked to speak. Come on, ma'am, if I can have your name and address for the record, please.
Well, I'm just going to speak on the, you guys saying.
Yeah, you have to come to the podium, please.
You were telling us, I guess, to meet with the HOA or?
Yeah.
We have one, but we do not have one. I've been there for over 10 years, over a decade, and
Okay.
we've never had not one meeting.
Okay, so not officially the HOA, but the group of neighbors that are represented
So all of
today.
us getting together and
Yes.
him getting together with
Yes.
us? Okay.
Yep.
How's that going to be arranged? Because, like you said, there's never been an HOA meeting in 15 years.
I would, you guys, have done a great job of assembling today. I don't know how you got the word out for that, but I would at least huddle up after this meeting and select a point person, get with the applicant so that they share contact information, and then you guys will have to organize that, on your own.
What are you hoping for us to get done with this person in 2 weeks? I mean, he clearly says he won't do anything else, a study, he's doing really big of him to not make him 50. So I'm not understanding what we're going to accomplish in a 2-week meeting, because clearly none of us want it. We agree with you that it doesn't make any sense. He, of course, wants it, so do we expect something else?
Yeah, sir, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to come up to the podium and speak.
I was just asking what you were hoping that we could accomplish at the 2-week meeting. If he's already decided he's not doing a traffic study, he's doing what he wants.
We're hoping that you guys can come to some compromise, but let me ask this. I mean, is there anything that the developer or the applicant can do that will make this preliminary plat, acceptable to the neighborhood?
Not as it's currently drawn, no.
Well, so the purpose of the extension is for you to share your views with them, which she has heard today, the applicant's heard today, and maybe there's some alterations that could be made. On the other hand, they might not choose to do anything. But if you come back in 2 weeks and there's concessions made or none, then at that time we will vote.
Okay.
You need to come to the podium, sir.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
I go as JB Brahmaya Jerugmili, 6301 Braniger Way. Including the applicant who said there is an access problem. It's more than a problem, it's a nightmare. We're adding 360 plus families, small working families with about 500 cars, about 500 children, school buses, and they need parks in the evening. Not even a single park has been laid out in this plan. And what my predecessor articulated, the 63 that connects to Council Road, is an S-shaped single-lane road with 25 feet and 50 feet gorges in the side. The road cannot be widened without building bridges, which is a major, major project in itself. I don't think we can reach a compromise on what life is going to be in 2 weeks' time with a person adamant on this construction. I think there needs to be at least 4 weeks, and I'm humbly requesting that a city engineer do this traffic study and analysis of how to alleviate this, not a private contractor.
I don't believe, I can ask Public Works to respond to that, but I don't believe that's under their purview. But Barry, can you confirm that, please?
I don't need a study.
Traffic commission for
There ain't
a
enough room
traffic
to-
signal at that location,
enough
but
room to
all of
support
that
it.
responsibility will fall with the developer.
So how do we make sure that that study will be unbiased and it will favor the people and not the builder?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
I'm saying, how would such a study be unbiased? Because a contractor begins with a bias to finish the job quickly because they're interested in the revenues. But we, as 400 families there, are worried that on a given day, we cannot get out to work till 10 a.m. in the morning when hundreds of cars line up there on a single lane S-curved road. A single accident will mean 2 hours of lost work time, and school buses get stuck. There is an alternative path through River Bend, but that adds about a mile and a half to everybody's commute. No one with any common sense will use that road.
And I can't speak for everybody up here, but I don't need a traffic study to tell me that this is not going to be good. I would assume if all the houses were built eventually, by now they would have had to made some traffic improvements, because that's a lot of houses to be on this one lane access road to this neighborhood. So just saying, I don't need the benefit of a traffic study to see the problem here.
And I'm going to echo what Council Privet said. I see the access issues being a no-go for me on this as well. And that's what we need to sit down. You guys need to sit down and talk about how to fix that. Because if I were to vote today, I'd vote no.
I hope that after 2 weeks of interactions, the commission would respectfully hear our side of it if there is no compromise. There is not likely to be a compromise from what I heard today.
Yeah, that's what the 2 weeks are for, and like you said, if it takes longer than 2 weeks, then it's 4 weeks. But we can't make those decisions for you. That's something you guys are going to have to sit down and work out. And if, like kids putting time out, if you can't play nice, then you come back in 4 weeks, and it's up to us to make that decision.
Thank you, sir.
At that time, I think we heard all that we needed to hear. Is there any additional comments from commission? All right, so I've heard that the applicant is open to a 2-week continuance, so I will take that motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move a 2-week continuance on C7472.
That would be to the September 22nd meeting. I have a motion to continue for 2 weeks from Commissioner Hinkle and a second from Janice Powers. Please cast your votes when available. And the continuance passes. I would urge all the neighbors to get together, appoint a point person, and make sure that their contact info is available to the applicant, and begin coordinating those discussions as quickly as possible. So with that, we'll move on to item 7 on the agenda.
Sorry, could I say one more thing before they go? Normally, if this were a zoning case, your planning commissioner would attend this meeting and sort of help herd it through the process of give and take. It's not possible when it comes to plats, so it's not that we're just like shooing you out the door. We really want to give and encourage you to give this process a chance. You'd be surprised what people can learn and express in a positive way that can make a difference and a change in these kinds of things. We've been through this many, many times before. We're not, trying to sell you a piece of goods here. It's not going to be easy, and it may not happen. And, it may not ever come to agreement. but then it'll be up to us to decide, so.
Okay. We'll take just a moment for the chambers to clear out.
Okay, item 7, this is case PC 10831, application to rezone 2520 North Oklahoma Avenue from C3 to the I-2 district.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Beatty. My address is 11441 South Walker Avenue, and I own the property at 2520 North Oklahoma. We're requesting that property be rezoned from C3 to I2 so that we can utilize it for wanting to put in a training facility for Jackson Mechanical, a heating and air conditioning company. Right now, we can't do that because we're C3.
Thank you. This is Commissioner Pennington's ward, so he's not here to lead the discussion. Is there any questions from the commission on the application? No? Pretty straightforward?
Well, not to state the obvious, I guess, but it does seem to me that this property is surrounded by industrial uses. The property to the east is zoned R1, but that's kind of an anomaly, it seems to me. This seems to me to be a particularly appropriate use for this property, so.
I agree. Sounds to me like we're ready for a motion.
I'll move approval of PC 10831.
I have a motion to approve C10831 from Commissioner Hinkle. I have a second? I do, from Commissioner Privet. Please cast your votes when available.
Yay.
Great. Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Okay, thank you.
Item 8 is case CE 1082, application.
Good. Oh.
Thank you.
Application to close all of Northeast 25th Street in Block 11 of Barrows Addition, located south of Northeast 26th and east of North Oklahoma Avenue.
And I'm back.
Oh.
So this is a 300-foot strip of Northeast 25th Street that runs right down between Jackson Mechanical property on the north and my property on the south. Jackson has a long-term lease on my property where we're going to build a training facility, and we're requesting that we close that 300-foot piece of road it's been a dead end for the 10 years I've been there. It's grassed over. There's no road there. So we can put in fences and tie in our 2 yards for the 2 properties and make it more secure for our employees and for our equipment, and then actually make a parking lot right there for the training facility.
Okay. Any questions or comments, concerns? I know this is a closing of an easement, so.
And you know, Mr. Chairman, that I'm not a big fan of closings, especially street closings, but this seems to me to be, kind of a no-brainer. It doesn't go anywhere. The street's closed on the other side of Oklahoma. There's no place for it to go through. And it seems to me that it will consolidate the property in a way that will be useful. We were just talking about industrial properties and the need for more of them, so.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
I wanted to find a reason to object.
It makes sense in this case.
All right. Sounds like we're ready to hear a motion.
Two.
I have a motion to recommend approval of item CE 1082 from Commissioner Powers. I have a second. I do from Commissioner Hinkle. Please cast your votes when available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9 is case SPUD 1443, application to rezone 4201 Northwest 50th Street from O2 to SPUD 1443.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of, also here with us. This is for an SPUD that would take it from O2 to an R4 Spud that would allow for a small multifamily project. There is one TE that we cannot agree to. We do intend to take access on Northwest 50th. I did speak about this with Commissioner Powers. One of the concerns that she raised was our parking along North Brunson Street. And so what we are proposing to do is to modify the SPUD through a new TE that would state that the minimum number of parking spaces required within this SPUD shall be 18. Additionally, we shall be required to curb and landscape that stretch along Brunson Street. Right now, if you have an aerial, not Cindy, but Jared, you would see that it's just one open curb cut with some kind of crumbling pavement. So what we're going to do is have our access on 50th Street. Again, we will curb that stretch along Brunson and landscape it. We think that's a better scenario. So again, we would ask to strike TE1, add a new TE2, stating that the minimum number of 18 shall be the parking spaces required, and then finally, no parking along Brunson, and rather it shall be curbed and landscaped. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can we eliminate EFS as a building product, an acceptable building product?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can we eliminate EFS?
Oh, can we eliminate EFS? Yes.
And then one more, I can't remember.
I thought that request died with Scott Craven's leaving his chairmanship. But.
You know, he made
Made an impression.
convert of me. Is there any requirement for screening of this site? The only R1 is the church property to the west.
Yes, I do believe we'd be required to screen under R4.
Okay, and then where will the dumpsters go on site?
That'll be a final site design question. We don't know exactly yet, but we'll have space for it.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone who wants to be heard on this item?
I do not have anyone signed up to speak.
Well, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve item number 9, SPUD 1443, eliminating TE1. Well, I guess so. We're not allowing you to take access from Brunson if we want to, so maybe we're just adding TEs. We will allow access also from 50th Street. We're going to eliminate the parking along Brunson Avenue. That will be landscaped and curbed.
And the minimum number of parking shall be 18.
18. No EFS. So,
No EFS.
with those TEs,
All right. I have a motion with the amended TEs to recommend approval of SPUD 1443. Do I have a second? Do you have a second? Commissioner Govine, please cast your votes when available. And that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Item 10 is PUD 1909, application to rezone 8000 South Air Depot Boulevard from R1 to PUD 1909.
Once again, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. This is a wonderful opportunity along 240 and Air Depot to further the industrial development that's occurring in and around Tinker. Large-scale warehouse facility is what is proposed here that we think is nothing but a positive along that stretch of 240 and Air Depot. So there is one TE within this application that we do agree to, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Where are you taking access from, David?
I'm sorry?
Where are you taking access from?
There will be access on Air Depot, and I believe it's just Air Depot.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't because that's the on-ramp right there, right?
Correct. I'm sure it's limits to no access along 240.
And this is going to be abutting the new police and fire stuff, right? I think. It should be like right south of it. Okay.
Yes, sir. So in the image before you see what we've allowed or what we propose is somewhere between 800 and above 1,000 square feet warehouse. Again, that this area in Oklahoma City is becoming very important with Tinker and all the expansion that's going on there. And so the ability to have complementary development along 240 we believe to be very important.
Any other discussions or comments?
No, I know there's going to be a lot more development there that's already been through, but as far as that hill there, how are you guys going to, are you going to cut that down and, you not hear me? Hello?
As far as what?
Cutting the hill down? I guess we're gonna
At the
have to.
time of build, I'm sure there
Yeah.
will have to be some
That's some
site
kind of deal.
site
Okay.
movement.
I got nothing more. If no one here to sign up to speak, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I do not have anyone signed up to speak, but just for safety reasons, I will ask if there's anyone who would like to speak on the item. Nope.
And as far as the TE, you've got the AE stuff.
Yeah, we agree, the TE.
Yeah, right, okay. All that, turn it off. I'll move to approve PUD 1909 or recommend approval to City Council.
I have a motion from Commissioner Privet to recommend approval to City Council for PUD 1909. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hinkle. Please cast your votes when available. And that passes.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Item 11 is PUD 1910, application to rezone 13501 North County Line Road from PUD 1394 to PUD 1910.
Good afternoon. Once again, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. On behalf of the applicant, this is a PUD that would allow for a host of different uses. We've got some multifamily, commercial, and some office. It's along that stretch of the Kilpatrick Turnpike and County Line. It's an area that's fastly emerging in Oklahoma City. We believe that the uses we've included across the board in all three tracks to be appropriate for the area. There are a handful of TEs. So I will start with, we agree with TE 1, 4, 5, and 6. TE 2, we agree as it relates to pawn shops and auto repair, but we would like to keep the ability to have the uses spelled out in A, B, and C. And then on TE 3, as it relates to signage, we agree as it relates to track 2. I spoke with Commissioner Claret about this yesterday. What we would request to do as it relates to track 3 is defer the decision on signage so that the Planning Commission at the specific plan stage would have the discretion to review and approve any signage within that track 3. So I agree with 1, 4, 5, 6. On TE2, I agree as it relates to 2, D, and E. We would ask to keep A, B, and C. And on TE3, we agree with respect to track 2. With respect to track 3, we would ask that the signage within track 3 be reviewed and approved at the discretion of the Planning Commission at the specific plan stage.
Yeah, since this is my ward, I'm happy to lead in a discussion on it. I did talk with Mr. Box, was in agreement with all of the proposed TE changes that he read. I think this is a great site for what they're proposing there in northwest Oklahoma City, and I'm in support of it. But as I sit in this position today, I will not be able to make a motion on it. So I'm happy to hear from any other commissioners.
Uses, gas station, drive-through, and convenience, those are limited to the track of the north. What was that, 1?
1.
Yeah.
Say that again. Is it limited to track 3?
Yeah, track 1, I believe.
So track
Out 3, yeah, the one on the north, the little triangle.
Yes, sir.
That's the only one with the the fast food use, drive-through? I think it is.
It would be allowed in track 2 as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Gas station would not be allowed in track 2, and the convenience stores would not be allowed in track 2. They're only allowed in track 3, and we definitely want to keep those. We think that there is perhaps a good opportunity to have perhaps some sort of gas station use there. You'll notice that the number of uses allowed in track 3 is limited when compared to track 2. So yes, on TE2, there's 5 uses they asked to take out. There's 3 of which we would request to keep in. We agree to take out pawn shops and auto repair.
Okay.
I must admit I'm curious about TE2. Why the elimination of gas stations, drive-throughs, and convenience sales was suggested by staff?
No, yeah.
Is it because they can't meet the 150 foot, or?
Well, we should be able, but yeah, because track 2 is commercial tract as well, so we'll be able to meet the 155.
Sarah Welch Planning. That was based on the existing PUD, was divided into tracts, and the depth of the tracts, that front county line was about 250 feet, and it had some of those restrictions in there. So we were just trying to carry that over to this PUD.
Oh, okay. When was that prior PUD adopted, do you know? I assume it was before the
PUD
turnpike.
1394, I don't know, it's been,
2010.
Okay. Thank you.
I missed this yesterday when we talked, but in track 2, if we're leaving gas stations, drive-throughs, and convenience sales and personal service, would you be agreeable to limiting those uses, or at least the use of drive-through speakers within 150 feet of the residential, adjacent residential?
that'd be fine.
So that would add TE7. Any other questions? Anyone to be heard on this item? No? With that, I'm happy to take a motion.
I'll take a shot. I move approval for PUD 1910, leaving in place TEs 1, 4, 5, and 6, modifying TE2 to eliminate the pawn shop and the auto repair, adjusting TE3 to deferring the sign size on track 3 till the final stages, and adding TE7 of 150 feet from residential for a speaker for a drive-through.
In track 2.
In track 2.
I have a motion to recommend approval of PUD 1910 to City Council from Commissioner Hinkle. Do I have a second? I do have a second from Commissioner Govine. That.
I wanted to make sure we made it clear that on TE2, we are keeping pawn shops and auto repair. We're removing A, B, and C from TE2, I believe is.
Yes, he said it, the converse.
Yeah.
We are eliminating the ability to have them in the PUD, but from the TE, he said the converse.
It's remove A, B, and C from that TE.
From the TE.
But keep D and E, and that.
Yes, sir.
It reads correctly. Okay, and I second that.
Thank you for clarifying. Please cast your votes when available.
Thank you.
Leave it to box to make something hard.
Item 12 is SPUD 1440, application to rezone 1140 Southwest 149th Street from AA to SPUD 1440.
Good afternoon, Ross Morris with Morris Engineering, representing the applicant.
This piece of property off of 149th Street between Western and Penn on the south side, and we've got a tributary of the Canadian River that runs along the south boundary of it. My client has been in the exercise business for 8 years now. They've had a workout facility. They do classes and that kind of thing. Well, they've rented all the way. Now they've got this property and they're looking to put in a facility there that'll have basketball courts, workout facilities, classroom facilities, and that's the purpose of the Spud.
Okay. Commissioner Hinkle, this is your ward. Would you like to lead off our discussion?
This is a really undevelopable piece of property due to the easements running through there and the floodplain, and I feel fortunate for the south side that somebody's willing to develop it. So
Yeah, it has some challenges. There's no doubt about it. So
there's enough trees there to write a book.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's for what it is and where it is, it's a great use of that piece of property. So I don't have any issues with it at all.
Anything else from commissioners? If not, I have several people signed up to speak. All right. Jean Perdue, what would you like to tell us about this item?
Hello, my name's Gene Perdue. I live at 1409 Southwest 149th Street, just west of this property. I've lived there 50 years now. When I came out there was really nothing there, but in the meantime, there's been several very nice homes built out there on small acreages, and everything's been well maintained. It's just a real nice area. It's a really desirable area because we have people out there all the time wanting to know if there's anything for sale out there. As I understand it, this was all developed as a rural residential area and has never been considered for anything else. We not only understand it to be this way, but there are several of us here that object to some commercial coming in there because once you get one in there, they're going to line up down the street. And that's not what this whole area was originally conceived to be. Like I say, this is a nice area. I've lived there 50 years. I've seen a lot of really nice houses go up. The whole area is nice. And our neighborhood just objects to this right now.
All right. Thank you for coming down.
That's it.
Is it Darlin Jahal? Jalen? Darren Jam? Samsonite. I was way off.
Come on, Darla.
My name's Darren Jan. I live at 1311 Southwest 149th. I'm just west of this property. Kind of like what Gene said, everybody's on small acreages there. We try to do our due diligence to contact other homeowners that lived in this area, but because everybody's on an acreage, the letter only went to a handful of us. Not against a fitness center or anything to that nature, but in the area that it's being put in, you've got a creek there, you've got flood zone there. You're talking about the people that live across the street. You're talking about lighting, things like that. There's absolutely nothing commercial in between Western and Pennsylvania other than this proposed project. And even what Gene said, I would have to die in half the others to be able to do anything else commercial. Just east of that is oil tankers. Further down the road from there is a Casey's. There is no additional open land for any other type of commercial buildings or anything in there because we all own anywhere from 4.5+ acres. We have tried to get in contact with multiple people in the area. We have not talked to the applicant in regards to what they were trying to do, other than we got the letter. I personally, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's going to be good for our property values or anything into that nature. We're on a 2-lane road. Traffic's already a nightmare there. And now we're talking about putting a business in. I don't know how many parking spots or anything to that nature. But me, I'm catty-cornered from it. Yeah, it'd be hard not to see the lighting. I'm more concerned about the people that live a little further down that are right across the street from it. And, you know, I don't agree with it. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jam. Charles Moore.
Charles Moore, 1229 Southwest 149th. I live directly across the street of what would be the parking lot as shown here. They talked about everything from lighting to, you know, looking at my front door and I see a commercial building, I see a parking lot, I see lights, concerned about the traffic. Supposedly 149th is going to be widened to 4 lanes over the next 5 or 10 years. I think there's some money set aside, but no telling when that will happen. I'm sure it's a few years down the road, but our concern is that's just a small piece of land that my understanding was purchased very, very cheap for what he mentioned there. It's land that's really got its issues and probably couldn't be developed. And so let's throw a gym up there or something like that. It's out of the ordinary. It's not like anything else that's around. Concerns about our property values, not only from a buyer standpoint, but you know the county assessor doesn't look at stuff like that. Our property values continue to go up year after year after year. But from a buyer perspective, trying to sell that property, you know, somewhere down the road, that's our retirement home. I think it's going to have a big impact. As most of you know, that's Tornado Alley, and most of the people represented here have all had to rebuild their home after the 2013 tornado. Most of them or a lot of them are retirees. As the one man said, he's been there 50 years. There's another couple back there that's been there 50 years and have seen all this type of stuff. And we built to have those type of areas, but to put something that could be commercial right in the center of it when there's nothing else around, I would rather look at the trees and know that there's a little floodplain there than to see a big metal building, parking lot, and lights right in the middle of our residential area. As I know others are going to speak here today, my feel as we listened to that first long process where they were trying to put a whole bunch of houses in and stuff, you know, we got all the concerned neighbors that could show up here today. Several of them couldn't make it, and we know there would be more to speak out, and we would love to have more show up today. But that's our concern, putting something that really doesn't fit the area. It's not, everything around it is industrial, and we're just going to add something right next door to it. It's all residential. It may be zoned agriculture or whatever they call it, but it's all the, you know, 2-5 acre lots and stuff out there that people have done it for years and some as back as 50 years. Mm-hmm. And to have something commercial put right in the center. Leave your commercial on the intersections, Western and 149th or Penn or something like that, but don't put it right down in the center, you know, of the residential area, single family dwellings where we live today.
Okay. All right.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Janice Crinth.
Hello, my name is Janice Knight. We live right across the street. Yeah, you said it wrong.
I'm way off.
My address is 1309 Southwest 149th. We're right across the street from the people that are wanting to rezone the property and make it into a commercial fitness center / boot camp. They're going to have to go in there and tear all the trees out. There's a lot of tree areas in there. And when they push them down, they're going to be pushing them toward the creek. That's going to cause more water overflowing. And most possibly, the trees will stay there. that's been pushed down. There is supposed to be widening 149th, we were told, at the end of next year. The traffic right now, like they say, is terrible to get out in your driveway. When they widen that road, it's going to be a lot worse. You're taking your life in your own hands to get out of the road. We've had to move our mailboxes from the south side to the north side because it's, well, they're on the hill and they're down right to your mailbox before you get in there. The traffic will be coming in and out all times of the day and night. We've seen a lot of changes in the 50 years that we've lived there. Most of them have been good, but this one is not good. It doesn't fit in this area. It doesn't belong there, and I don't see them keeping it up like everybody else in the neighborhood does with their yard. Right now, behind their house, 3/4 of their property is in the flood zone. If you took a brush hog and brush hog that area, whoever is on that tractor, there's no way they can see where they're even going because the Johnson grass and the weeds are terrible. I'm against it. I think there is too many empty spaces that they can put a gym in, not there. And if it does close, then we're going to be looking at that, and it's not going to be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Lastly, I have Angie Shelton. Okay. All right. If someone else signed up to speak, please come to the podium, please. If you could go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and then before you leave, if you could just fill out one of these speaker sheets and give
Yes,
it to...
sir. Thank you. I appreciate you. My name is Rachel Reedy. My address is 1405 Southwest 149th Street. I've lived there for 7 years. My husband built my house, and I appreciate your comments, Mr. Hinkle, about how you would appreciate someone coming into that area and trying to build a gym, which I would love, but not directly across from our houses. I mean, I try to plea on that, like if you were to wake up every morning and you were to wake up to a gym staring across your face like I am right now, it wouldn't be that pleasant. We bought our homes and our land in hopes, like the American dream, I'm self-employed, and we bought our homes and our land to build a family and not to have that street even more cluttered than it already is. Right now, it is an emergency issue. Being 2 lanes, we can't even pull out, like they mentioned, out of our house during certain times of the day. When there has been fires and emergencies, they have to shut down the entire road. So now you go ahead and add a gym back there that doesn't even have more than one entrance because the entrance would be off 149th Street. How in the world are you even going to get the correct response people in there to help people when they are working out, if you have a cardiac arrest or something like that, as well as the lights, as everyone else has mentioned. But again, I do ask you to really think about this and think about if this was your land that you invested in, money that you spent your hard-earned life working for, and land that you prayed for and that you asked God for, if you would like to wake up and stare at those lights every day with that across the way. And I just feel like there's a lot more people today. I feel like if you're going to go ahead and move forward with it, I ask for a continuance instead, because none of us were given that pamphlet out there that I went out there and Ms. Sarah showed me out there in a booklet. There's tons of pages on it. None of us were given that. We weren't even contacted by the people trying to make this proposal. Nobody out there even gave us any information. They haven't contacted us. They haven't tried to talk to us. I was on the phone with several of our neighbors that would love to be here, but they didn't even know. One's preparing for a colonoscopy right now, and he's like, I can't be there. And he's a business owner in the area as well. So a lot of us have tax dollars going into the community that we are living in, so we do care about it. I feel like if you want a commercial space, though, move it like on the opposite side where there's already commercial space. Like, you don't have to put it in the middle of residential area. It's a residential area. If you come out like this map doesn't even show. I wish you could drive out of my house and go look and see what you'd really see, because it would change your opinion, I think, if you were the one being where we are in our shoes. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard on the item? No? All right. Comments from the commission? Questions?
To the applicant, would you,
Excuse
Bless
me,
you.
my allergy just all of a
I'm with
sudden
you.
took off.
Would you be willing to take a continuance for 2 weeks and visit with the neighbors?
How long?
For 2 weeks?
And then for us to meet with them?
Yeah, to meet with the neighbors. And to the neighbors, I can't speak as exactly when this will happen, but I can tell you that most likely when 149th Street develops from that Casey's going west, since it is in a floodplain and it's zoned AA, there's a great chance that it'll get zoned commercial as well. So there could be a commercial. There can be a commercial corridor all along 149th Street all the way up to this, whether this gym gets built or not, because that's about all that will go in there, and the city, you know, wants the tax dollars. You can't put a neighborhood in there, so I'm just giving you a heads up, forewarning. Could be next year, could be 5 years down the road, but if you're willing to take a continuance and visit with the neighbors about the impact of what it is you're trying to do is going to have on them. I understand that they didn't all get a chance to look and see and talk, and as a commission, we always like to make sure everybody's had every avenue they have. So if you're willing.
One of the developers, one of the owners is here. He would like to speak to George Vanover.
Come up and tell us your name and address.
Want to hear it, or you'd rather?
Sure. Well,
Do it next time.
I'm interested, and they are too, so.
Okay. I'm Jordan Vanover. I live on 15205 Stone Meadows Drive. And I'm one of the developers with my twin brother and a couple other people that are investing in it. I just want to clear up a couple things about what the facility is and what it means to us. I know I look young. I've been in the fitness industry and owned my own business since I was 20 years old, so I understand what it's like to have the American dream. I understand what it's like to wake up at 4:50 in the morning, go to bed at 11, 7 days a week to build something you believe in. And this is something we believe in. It's not just another building, it's not just another place, it's not just another commercial place that will ruin their property value. What we believe in is more than that. We're building a facility that is a fitness center. I don't know what she got from the boot camps, but it's a fitness center. It will have basketball courts inside of it where we can have teams rented out, which is a real problem right now for kids that are small. We'll have pickleball courts. We'll have things that people can do in the community to be active and safe, but more than changing their lives and letting them live a longer, healthier, more positive life and better lifestyle, we work closely and have for a long time with kids and scholarshiping kids, including working with the Oklahoma City public school systems to find kids that are at risk and need that can't afford this kind of thing, that can't afford $300-400 a month for training. And we take those kids and train them for absolutely free to get them scholarships to play sports into college and to help those kids and make a difference in our community. I'm not just here to be another business to put lights on their houses. I'm here to make a difference in the community and actually make a stamp where I am. I know all you guys are here because you're passionate about what you do, and I appreciate what you do to make our city awesome. I've been here my whole life, lived here my whole life. I love Oklahoma City. I want to make this place better. I want a place where people can go and be active with their family. I know it can seem like a negative thing. I'm a property owner as well as a negative thing. I don't want you guys to look at it like that. I want you to look at it as a positive thing. Now you have a place to go right across the street where you can be active with your family, where you can do activities, where your kid can get involved in a basketball league, or your daughter can get involved in a volleyball league. A place right across the street from you where you can do that. And I understand the concerns. I'm more than happy to take the continuance, talk to the neighbors. I want to bend to their needs too. I don't want the property value to go down. I want it to be ran right. Me and my partners are more than dedicated to make this land what it needs to be. We understand that there's a lot of difficulties into it. When I first called the city, they told me and tried to talk me out of it because it's hard to do. It's a lot of money to do it. I've saved my entire life. I've worked my entire life to do whatever it takes to make this land that could not be developed into anything else except for an ugly piece of land with nothing on it to something that makes a difference in this city. Thank you.
Ma'am, if you're going to address us, you need to come up and speak to us. Sorry, that's just the rules.
We're building a new facility on the maps plan on the east side, right
South of 134th.
It's going to have the pickleball, it's going to have swimming area, it's going to have a walking track, a pond. We don't need another one.
Ma'am, that's a senior wellness center. It's only for people my age.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's not a good deal. You know, they're saying what they're going to do and all this. They don't keep their property up. It's a mess. We've lived there for 50 years, and like I say, the tornado has come through and wiped everybody out. They put new homes in there. Everybody keeps their yards manicured to the hilt. They don't. They never have. Now, they have mowed their yard the last couple of times and that's been since the letter has been sent out. It's a mess. drive out there on 149th and look at the houses and look what's across the street. It's a black and white sheet metal house, and that's what their property is going to be when they do that.
Okay.
Ma'am, if you're going to talk to us, you have to come
No
up and
comments from the
address.
gallery. If you wish to be heard, please come to the microphone.
If you're willing to take a 2-week continuance, then I'll make a motion to take a 2-week continuance for Spud 1440.
Do we have, is there a list of these people and phone numbers where we can
That will,
plan something, or?
sir, I'll be able to get it for you.
Got one, okay, fantastic.
You mind if I,
As you can see, my client's passionate about it. He's been doing it a number of years.
As are the neighbors.
Do it?
As are the neighbors.
Yeah?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, you guys sit down and talk about it. If his passion
Okay,
can.
that's fine.
so-
We're happy to.
Anybody else?
They don't want to be a bad neighbor, so, I
Right.
mean, that's not a problem.
Commissioner Govine, you had a comment?
Sure. I wanted to, just turn that off. There it is. To the applicant, and I want to see this facility successful if it ends up getting approved. There's clear comments in here about the riparian areas and preservation of trees. This, I can't think of any more appropriate site that's come across in my time here so far that would be more relevant, because it is a floodplain area, it's a drainage basin, and it's currently completely covered in trees. So one of the staff comments has to do with preservation of those trees to the greatest extent possible. So I think when you come back in 2 weeks, I would really appreciate if you could speak to that in a little bit more detail as far as showing the plan, what areas of the site do you plan to keep undisturbed? And how are you addressing the floodplain and riparian areas of tree cover? So I think maybe that would help in the meantime, meeting with the neighbors and explaining, because there are lots of ways that you can mitigate light spill, headlights for the parking areas. I know staff also made comments about potentially locating the parking closer to the rear of the site. That might be something to consider. But I think you could make a number of steps in the design proposal to alleviate some of the concerns of the neighbors, to show them that you're going to landscape this site, you're going to deal with light. That would be helpful.
Just know that pending the rezoning, we'll be able to go forward and get an architect to actually put together site plans and elevations and put together a set of, so we can go for a building permit. So in other words, I don't have an architect today that's going to do it, so we've got a rendition of what we anticipate and how we see the site that I put together. But if we, like I said, upon getting it rezoned and actually physically having a project to do, then we'll be able to get an architect that can put those plans together so we can go for a building permit, and then we can address the drainage and all of that. So,
Yeah, well, I think what I'm seeing here is not enough for me to support the application, so I'm trying to help you
Okay,
get a
I
little
understand.
closer down.
Thank
And
you.
civil engineers can draw
Right,
areas of disturbance as well. So-
right.
I would also like to encourage both the applicant and the neighbors, when you meet, this is a simplified planned unit development. That means that there can be baked into the zoning controls and specific requirements, if you will. So if there are things that would make this application more palatable to you, you need to think those through and express them to us. Clearly controls on the lighting and that sort of thing. Also the placement of the access onto 149th Street might be critical in a situation like this, where you do have property that is to the east of Blackwelder there, and therefore further away from these homes. This is a tough one for me, I have to admit. First came on the Planning Commission. Commercial development was confined to the cross-access roads. I mean, the major arterial cross-accesses, and there would not have been this kind of commercial development that far off the corner of 149th and Western. We don't do that anymore. They're about to improve Western. I think you're absolutely right that once that happens, there will be a commercial development along 149th, and it, it may not happen this year, it may not happen in 5 years, but it's going to happen eventually. So if there are
you're
things,
correct. You can see the rooftops south and east of us from the Ideal Homes development there, and there's sewer, there's water, there's all the appurtenances there, so it's just a matter of time.
so if there are things that can be done to specify controls on the property, or as you were saying, concessions that you're willing to make the neighbors, come back to us with those.
Okay.
And please feel free to include me. You can get my contact information and I'll attend any meeting or have any conversation.
All right,
that
very
needs to
good,
be
thank
had.
you.
All right.
I move to,
I think at this point, we're gonna cut off comments and we're moving toward a continuance. So you'll have an opportunity to speak again on this item.
I'm going to move a continuance on Spud 1440 for 2 weeks.
I have a motion to continue Spud 1440 to the September 22nd meeting. And a second from Commissioner Powers. Please cast your votes when available.
Thank you.
Continuance passes. Thank you.
Item 13 is case C-7475, preliminary plat of Whispering Bend, located north of West Hefner Road and west of North County Line Road.
Is the applicant present?
Derek Turner with Turner Company, 3856 South Boulevard, Edmond, Oklahoma, 73013.
What would you like to tell us about the application?
Well, I kind of got caught off guard there. It's an application for single-family zoning or platting for the process there on County Line Road. We have the plat through at, he's helping me.
So give the people a chance to clear out anyway.
Yes. That's W west, W east. And no, we have no.
Can you put this to the heel? And you got to look at these.
Okay.
We put this to the heel.
To the end of the docket?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Any objection? No? Okay. They want to move this to the end of the
I
docket?
can do it. The only thing they asked for is access to the west.
I just want, I want to make sure you understand where all these are. Let's just punt this to the heel so we can look at the TEs real quick.
Okay. Do we need a motion on that? I have a motion to delay or move the item to the end of the docket. Do I have a second? Yeah, 13, item 13, C 7475. Yes. All we're doing is moving it to the end of the agenda. We're just delaying it a few minutes.
That's fine. The only thing is I've got to go pay a parking meter if we're going to do that.
Okay.
Just want to.
All right. I have a motion and a second to move this to the end of the docket. Please cast your votes, please. It says pass, but. All right. Item 14.
Item 14 is SPUD 1441, application to rezone 929 Southwest 88th Street from C3 to SPUD 1441.
Ross Morris with Morris Engineering, representing the applicant. Hoping for a better batting average here, so. This was on a few weeks ago, and we continued it because Mr. Hinkle wasn't here. We didn't have very many issues at all, matter of fact, with it. And we agreed with all the TEs, and I'm turning to them, but there's only two. And we removed the triplex from lot 5 and make that a duplex, and that's fine. And then South Klein, across our frontage there, will need to be improved, and we have agreed to that.
I apologize for 2 weeks ago if I had any confusion about continuing it. I thank you guys for doing it. I had a chance to meet the applicant and the resident who had questions about it out on site yesterday, and all his questions were answered. He thinks it's a great project, as do I. So unless there's somebody signed up to talk or we need to talk about it some more. Once again, sorry for the confusion, but I'm willing to make a motion.
I do not have anyone signed up to speak, but I will ask if anyone would like to be heard on this item. No.
Move approval for Spud 1441 with the 2 TEs.
A motion to recommend approval to City Council for Spud 1441. Do I have a second? I do have a second. Cast your votes when available, please. And that item passes. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Item 15 is the associated plat, C7470, preliminary plat of Village Place Townhomes located north of Southwest 89th Street and west of Southwestern.
Ross Morris with Morris Engineering, representing the applicant. This is the follow-up on the previous item for the zoning. This is the preliminary plat for it. We had 3 TEs, and we have agreed to all of them. So that there's only 3 of them, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Just a single street in with a cul-de-sac, really kind of an infill type project down there in that area.
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Since we made the change, eliminating the triplexes, is there any way in which that needs to be represented in the plat? There are indications where the triplexes will go on the drawing. Those changes need to be made. We need to make that.
Oh, that only applies to lot 5.
It does, it only applies to lot 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Anything else? Ready to hear a motion?
I will move approval of C7470 with the 3 TEs.
A motion to recommend approval, C7470. I have a second from Commissioner Powers. Please cast your votes when available. And it passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 16 has been deferred. Item 17 is PUD 1904, application to rezone 4501 South Sarah Road from AA to PUD 1904.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This is an item that was deferred a couple weeks ago because of one of the TEs. We needed to find a way to redesign the commercial track so that we could adhere to the 150-foot setback requirement for the drive-through order windows. So what we've done is we've redesigned the tract 1, the commercial tract, in a manner that would allow us to agree to that TE. So it's a mixed-use development where we'd have commercial on the corner and then the residential in the back. So in terms of the TEs, we agree to TE 1 and 3. TE 2, we do not agree with and ask to strike it. The reason being, our western border here is encumbered with a core regulated blue line. So you can tell, based upon the way that this is drawn, we've actually tried to stay all the way away from that blue line. We don't take any lots up to it, so we would ask to not connect to the west. We have drainage easements that run through here. So it's a core regulated blue line, which is why we've stayed off of it, so we'd ask to delete TE2 for that reason.
Is that a hard no? I mean, is it that you cannot build into that area?
It's a we don't know. I mean, it would require a core permit. It would require probably a significant bridge over the blue line. And my guess is whenever that site to the west develops, it'll be the same thing. The span would have to be significant and frankly look kind of awkward in the middle of a single family neighborhood.
Okay.
We discussed this last time.
I don't believe so. I think we've continued it before.
Okay, it seems like we talked about, it may have been a different case, but the lot that's been left out, that.
Oh, sure. So
Drainage easement, didn't we discuss that that could be enough, that that's
did.
left open?
We discussed it in a pre-meeting, in a prep, a little bit, and it was, so that area to the west is a mostly highly wooded area around where the little pond is. Not as extensive as a canal, but I would say towards a canal kind of feel between the two pieces of land. So I would think nobody would build across it. It would be a lot to build across it if you were going to connect two neighborhoods. Mr. Box and I have talked a few times on this. The block out is for access into the common area and for a drainage area. I do like that there is access on the north and on the east. There aren't a lot of homes in this development, but I still like that there's two accesses that we've been talking about continuously in meetings. So I am agreeable to TE2 being removed, but I'm open to any other comments that anyone has too.
to your point, we've done that on another application. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I asked to, rather than build the stub, to provide the right-of-way. The difference being...
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, in that instance, the lots were right up against the property line, right? So we didn't have the blue line issue. The reason that we are not on the property line, which you would expect to see in a development, is because of that blue line. So here, it wouldn't make sense to do it like we did in that other manner.
Got it. But basically, looking at what's being submitted, though, you do have the green access bit would not be a platted lot.
Common area.
Correct.
People could walk through there if they
That's
wanted
correct.
to.
Yes, sir.
I like that.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
All right. Any other comments or questions? No. With that, I'm happy to hear a motion.
I move to recommend approval on PUD 1904 and deleting TE number 2.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Fraley to recommend to City Council approval of PUD 1904, subject to the technical evaluations, deleting TE2. Do I have a second? Due from Commissioner Powers. Please cast your votes when available.
You waiting on a vote for me? Oh, no. It was blank, so wasn't sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 18 is a resolution of the Oklahoma City Planning Commission determining the proposed amendment of Oklahoma Riverfront Redevelopment Project Plan to be in conformance with the comprehensive plan of the city and recommending approval of the proposed amendments and adoption of the plan.
Good afternoon, Joanna McSpadden with the city's finance department. I've got a few slides to go through with you on, yes. Can you hear me better now? Okay, I'll try and talk louder too. I'm kind of quiet. Okay, so we're proposing an amendment of the Oklahoma Riverfront redevelopment project plan, which is roughly the area around Dell. So we have 2 TIF districts there, TIF 4 and 5. The amendment consists of a budget amendment and also a project area expansion. And so I'll walk through that with you. So the slide here that you see is the budget amendment. We have a current budget of $28 million. We are kind of restructuring the budget categories, adding $6 million, resulting in a total budget of $34 million. You can see what we've spent so far and what our proposed budget available would be with this amendment would be about $20 million, $20.8 million. And then below that, I kind of have a picture of how much cash we have and how much we expect to receive over the next 8 years. And so we'll have roughly an estimated cash flow of $19.9 million to use against that $20.8 million budget. Here is the current, the hash mark and the blue shaded area is the current project plan area. And we are proposing to expand into the red dashed areas. They're highlighted in green. So this is an expansion of only the project area. So just as a reminder, for TIF, you earn the increment and generate the tax within the TIF district, which is the blue and the red hash. You can spend it in the project area, which we're proposing to expand. If you go to the next slide, I've just got a few slides here that the planning department pulled together for me to just kind of give you an idea of the area that we're talking about expanding into. You can see that we've got a pretty heavy commercial and industrial uses in 2 of the areas. And I will just point out that the area to the west, that's around the outlet mall, just to give you some perspective. We've got some market values here. You can see that we've excluded the outlet mall itself in that area just to kind of give a better picture of kind of the surrounding area that would be potentially available for redevelopment, and the other 2 sections that are proposed to be part of the project area. Recent construction and sales, you can see that there's pretty minimal activity in the last few years. And then age, structure, age, again. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is the road infrastructure in the area. So this will show you sort of what the condition is of the roads in each of those areas. And then the next slide shows planned projects. So the idea would be that if we use this for infrastructure, we could maybe close some of those gaps for some planned projects and use some of the TIF money to do that. So I'd be happy to answer questions. The first slide, the title slide, gave us a kind of a calendar. So this has been to the TIF review committee. I took it to the Riverfront design committee last week, and we will go to council not on the 13th, but the 27th, and then I will also present it to the trust on the 27th.
So yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, is what types of projects, but it sounds to me like you're creating some flexibility to be able to use this for some arterial resurfacing.
We could use it for some infrastructure projects and then also just development support.
Okay.
So not to be dense, but what is the driving motivation here?
For the amendment?
Mm-hmm.
So we have cash still coming in, and we'd just like to expand the area with which we could maybe use it.
That sounds like a great idea.
Could you go back to the slide that shows the taxable?
Income generated, I was just curious. Go forward a couple slides. Another. There it is. What is the significance of the negative 6 and 7% near the outlet mall, and then the positive 4 or 5 or so percent in this other? How does that impact what you're doing here?
Just showing the kind of the growth in the area, and the hope is that we can improve those growth rates. So where we're seeing positive growth rates, maybe we can improve those, and of course where we're seeing declines, the idea that we could improve that
You want to get
in a
them
positive
up.
way.
So by spending the TIF funds, the idea is that those improvements then help benefit those areas to get those up. Thank you.
Use public dollars to spur private development.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you. Is anyone here to be heard on this item? No? Okay. So it's a resolution, so we need a motion to adopt the resolution.
Are we doing that today, or are we just introducing? Are we here to do this today, or what? It's on for hearing? Okay. I'll move to approve the resolution. Is there some way I should, the resolution amending, is that what I want to say? The Oklahoma Riverfront Redevelopment Project Plan?
I think you all are approving a resolution to recommend approval by city council.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it says,
You're determining that it's in conformance with the plan.
Oh,
And recommending approval.
okay.
I'm all for that. I so move.
Do I have a motion to determine that it is in conformance and recommend to city council? I have a motion from Commissioner Powers, a second from Commissioner Privet. Please cast your votes when available. And that item passes. And then we need to circle back to item 13.
Item 13 is C-7475, preliminary plat of Whispering Bend, located north of West Hefner Road and west of North County Line Road.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This is a preliminary plat that is associated with a zoning case that just came through Planning Commission a couple months ago, ultimately went to City Council and was approved. The preliminary plat does conform to the R1 zoning. There are a handful of TEs, all of which we agree to. So that will include providing a stub to the west. That will include the stub to the north aligning with the street to the north. You'll notice a stub to the south. Also, the access point shown on County Line is a boulevard divided with median. So we meet all access requirements. Again, we meet the subdivision regulations as well as the R1 zoning district. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Did you say, agree to the access to the west?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where's that going to be? I don't see that on my little.
We'll show you on a final plat.
Okay.
This is Ward 1, so this is my item. I do not have any questions or concerns, but I do have a couple of folks signed up to speak. We'd like to hear from them. Andrew McQuaid. Did you make it before time expired?
I did.
All right, good deal.
Sorry
please
for the...
please give us your name and address for the record, please.
Andrew McQuaid, 11313 North County Line Road. I'm the property just in the little nook to the southeast corner of the flat that's going in. Just being right there on the edge of that property, I just kind of had some questions about what that's going to look like as a property owner butting up to that, as well as knowing the property, fairly well. It does seem like the current plots are into the ravine there, the floodplain, and removing a lot of the trees and almost looks like kind of rerouting the creek. And so I didn't know if that is, if there's been an approved study of that or kind of what happens there, if that's just they can reroute the creek, put in some concrete and tear down all the trees, or I know I think the difficult part of that, living there on that corner, is that it does cut off access to directly behind our properties. So they're essentially trying to find a way to get more houses, more plots right there. So that's kind of one thing. And then just wondering, consideration what it looks like at the back of my property right now is, I see the green belts. It's a beautiful backyard view of basically nothing between me and the highway. I'm not opposed to their neighborhood going in, but I'd like some consideration about what it looks like at the back of my property.
Sure, certainly. Well, I can ask the applicant to respond to those questions.
Thank you.
So in terms of the ravine and the drainage, at the final plat stage, we'll have to have a detailed drainage study that'll be submitted to Public Works, reviewed, They'll either agree or disagree. If they disagree, then we'll have to go back and rework it. So as we know, the preliminary plat is just that. It's preliminary, but it allows the developer to turn loose the engineers to go spend the big money with the detailed drainage study. At the time of final plat, we will then have all of those elevations and know more specifically how each of the lots are going to lay out. On the north, he'll have what looks like one lot, and on the west, it looks like there would be 3 lots. So if you imagine what a traditional neighborhood might look like, the fact that he's got 4 lots is probably less than you might expect because of how the access occurs there on county line. You only have that 1 lot to the north.
I mean, are there any plans for residential privacy fencing or anything like that at the back of those lots?
Yeah, there'll be privacy fencing.
Would your client, if that's quite the right way to say that, be willing to keep in contact with Mr. McQuaid and kind of keep him apprised of that process as it's going through so he can have some sense of what's happening rather than have it just land in his lap?
Mr. Turner can do that. And as Planning Commission knows, there will be, the final plat will require notice. And so they will have the details of how the lots will lay out at that time when we come to Planning Commission. So yes.
That'd be great.
Okay. All right. I also have a Mr. Jason Yarder.
How are y'all doing?
Well, thank you. Welcome.
So this property, I'm at 11319 North County Line Road. So Andrew is my neighbor. In your screenshot, now I go a little bit toward the north. There's not a house there in your photo. I was here 2 years ago. We did a Zoom meeting to get my property rezoned for residential. This property is kind of unique to myself and my family. The property that they're proposing to build this neighborhood was owned by my in-laws. My mother and father-in-law owned this property, and they inherited it from his parents, which is now Andrew's house. When this property was being sold, there was actually 2 other buyers for this property. They brought in some plans to show them kind of some preliminary ideas of what they perceived to be this property. And behind Andrew and I's house was shown a green belt, which they agreed to sell the property to STK Homes at that time, knowing that we wouldn't be looking at homes, we'd be able to see the trees and the creek behind our homes. So I was really shocked to see when these plans came in that there were homes behind my house, as well as a redirection of the creek and potentially tearing out some of those trees. There is concern for flooding with the pond right just to the north of my home and to the creek. If you spend some time out of my home and there's been some rain, there's water back there. I, in fact, had to build up my house, my platform of my home, the elevation, 10 feet with an 18-inch stem wall because we know that property. Yet they're going to put homes right behind it. So in fact, to keep them from flooding, what are they going to have to do to their homes? They're going to have to raise that elevation, which in fact is going to create a valley for my house that I spent thousands of dollars on building up. So that's the first concern. We've talked about, I've heard in previous cases, the preservation of the trees, the creeks, and the ponds. I mean, that's huge. That's one reason why we decided to build on this property, to keep what last we had left of my wife's family's property that they've owned for 60 years. So now that potentially can go away with those homes. Now, growth is inevitable. I'm not saying that these guys should not be able to build this property. I'm just asking for some consideration for my property as well as Andrew's. Also, if you see their main entrance, it appears that they've already had talked about that there's going to be another entrance and exit to the west. But say all these homes that are in the back and they're going to be coming towards the east at nighttime. When they're coming up that road, that's actually going towards the southeast, their headlights are now going directly into my back windows. So that's my children's windows, that's my bedroom windows, that's my living room windows, and if you saw the back of my home, it's solid glass. So that's something to keep in consideration. They talked about some privacy fencing. What does that look like? Is that a stockade fence? That definitely don't want to look at is that trees and a brick wall. I would like to know those things. Again, I'm not asking for this plan not to go through with this development. Like I said, it's inevitable. That's the reason why they spent their money on purchasing it. I just want consideration for our home and for our property.
Thank you, Mr. Yarder.
Thank you.
So Mr. Turner said he can certainly get their contact and work with them as he works towards final design through a final plat. That won't be a problem. But in terms of the development of the site, I mean, once it was sold to a developer, it did become inevitable, especially given the nature of the area, which if you can go back to the zoning map, it is R1 all around it. In fact, if you remember this zoning case as well as the ones to the north, originally this was slated as the employment reserve, and we removed that layer to be able to do R1 rather than what the employment reserve would contemplate. So the R1, it is single-family neighborhoods surrounding this for quite a distance, so it's compatible with what you'd expect to find in this R1 area.
All right. So Mr. Yarder, Mr. McQuaid, what I heard is they're willing to keep you in the loop, keep you informed, and meet with you, maybe address some of your concerns. What I will say is I sincerely believe that will happen. If it does not, if you don't feel like you're being, you're not getting enough information, you can get my email from staff. This is my ward. So I'd be happy to facilitate any conversations between you and the applicant and the engineer. But not on the plat itself.
Susan's about to.
So you can let me know if they're not talking to you, and I can nudge them. All right.
And you can give Gold Star for sitting through this whole meeting.
But we don't validate parking.
The Walker garage does, though. I mean, next time, if you're down here next time, park in the Walker garage and we can validate. So.
All right, so with that, I need a motion on the preliminary plat.
Did they agree to all the Ts?
Yes, they did agree to all TEs.
Then I'll move approval of C-7475 with all 8 of the TEs.
A motion from Commissioner Hinkle to approve preliminary plat C-7475, seconded by Commissioner Powers. Please cast your votes when available. Commissioner Govine?
It's in there, it was a little late.
And that passes. So I believe that concludes the individual items on the docket. Take us to item 5, additional items, communications and reports, planning commission committees. Anything? No. Planning commission members, Commissioner Powers? No. Nothing. Commissioner Privet? Commissioner Hinkle? Nothing. Commissioner Govine?
Nothing.
Commissioner Noble? Nothing. Planning department?
Nothing from us.
Nothing. Municipal counselor's office? Kept you on your toes today. Any citizens to be heard? No? Other business? With that, I declare us adjourned.
Yeah.